Thank you so much for joining us today. We're going to be taking a deep dive into authority terms. So we're going to be looking at what authority terms are, creating and editing some terms, creating relationships between terms, reporting on terms, replacing terms, controlling the use of a term, deleting terms, using candidate status on terms, and using third-party term lists. So what are authority terms? They are the authoritative terms that your organisation has decided on. They provide a single source of truth for describing aspects of records at your organisation. They help you to manage and standardise data entry and ensure that your records are accurate. Many fields in Vernon are authority fields, so that includes location, place, artist maker, object type, classification, and much more. Simple authority terms have no relationships or linkages to any other terms. So an example of that is other ID type. Hierarchical authority terms let you add a structure or hierarchy. So you can set the top terms and then the terms that sit under that. These hierarchies also allow you to search at broader levels. For example, searching for the country of Australia will bring up the states and cities as well. So you can see in the status bar down the bottom of Vernon CMS, you can see the type of field that you're in. So clicking into a field like object type, you can see that it's an authority field. Authority fields also have an options button. That's this down arrow, which is also present in the toolbar. Let's look at creating an authority term. There's a few ways to navigate to creating an authority term. So you can do that directly via the field. So if I click into object type, I can click the Go To button on the toolbar, and that opens up the authority term window for object type, and I can create an authority term. Another way to do it is through the database menu. So going database, other files, and typing in the name of the file or field and selecting it from the list, and here I'm in the authority window for object type. And another way to do it is through the authority options window for a field. So if I want to create a new term, which is wire sculpture, the first thing I'll do is just check whether or not that's already in use. So I'll type wire sculpture and hit enter on my keyboard. It's not able to find it. It doesn't already exist. So I click OK. This has opened up the authority options window for object type. I can click this button here, which is create new authority term, and that would open up that authority term window. But I actually want to create wire sculpture as a narrower term of sculpture. So if I select that and click create new narrower authority term, that will open up that authority term window, and we can see that we've already got sculpture in the next higher term field. So I'm going to enter wire sculpture in here and save that. Close out of that window, select it, and there we have it in the object type field. I'm just going to name this record cat sculpture and save it, because I'm going to come back to it again later, and I will also just put a procedural status in there and an accession number and a department. So, editing an authority term. So you can edit a term and it will be updated throughout the system. So I'm going to edit the term print, which is an object type. So I can click into the object type field, click go to, and I'll type print in the search bar, brings that up, and then I can change that to screen print. And once I click save, it updates it everywhere that is listed in the system. If the term is hierarchical and you're moving its position in the hierarchy, maybe you're moving up higher, you also then need to edit its next higher term and the term below it. So that's just something to keep in mind, that if you were wanting to change its position, you need to update its next higher term and its narrower term. So talking of relationships like those, let's look at place made. So if I click the options button there, you can see in the authority options window that initially there's no terms listed there. That's because there's almost 1,500 terms, and that would slow Vernon down to display those. You can choose to show them, it just might take a little while, and you could do that by clicking the all button to show all the available terms. You could search for the term there when clicking find. And another option is to click this button, show top terms. And that shows 223 top terms, and that's a more manageable list for Vernon to display, so it's showing it there. So if I wanted to look at Australia, I can see that it's got several states which are narrower terms, and that's what that N means. And if we look at Queensland, we can see it's got its own narrower terms. So let's have a closer look at Queensland. I'll select it and I'll click go to highlighted term. In the hierarchy tab for Queensland, you can see its next higher term is Australia. So you can only have one next higher term. If we look on the thesaurus tab, Australia has automatically been listed in the broader term table. So for anything that is entered into the next higher term field, it will automatically be listed in the broader table, but you can have multiple broader terms. So if I wanted, I could also list Australasia as a broader term. And then you can see the narrower terms listed here. So the cities within Queensland. So let's look at another example, the Netherlands. So if I type Netherlands up here, it will find it in the list for me. And if I expand it, I can see it's got several narrower terms. And it's also got a related term, the Low Countries, and that's what that R means. So let's look at Netherlands, click the Go to highlighted term button. On the thesaurus tab, you can see that it has several narrower terms, and it also has that related term, the Low Countries, that was showing with the letter R before. You'll also see in the used for field that it says Holland. That means that the Netherlands is used for Holland. So the Netherlands is the preferred term. And if we look up Holland, and I just type that in the search bar, we can see that it has the use instead term listed there, and that's what that U means. So Netherlands is the use instead term for Holland. Let's look at Holland. When we go to the thesaurus tab, we can see that Netherlands is listed in the use instead table. So these relationships are reciprocal. So once you set up a relationship in a term, like next higher term, broader, narrower, use instead or used for, the other term is automatically updated. You can report on authority terms. So if you want to find out where a term is used, how often it's used, if it's not used, we can go to the Tools menu, Authority Tool, Authority Term Report Replace. In the authority file field, that's where you enter the name of the file that controls the term that you want to report on. So I'm going to enter object type. And in the authority term to report on or to be replaced field, that's where I'm going to enter the term book because I want to know about that term. This number 9 here is the system ID for that term. It is not the number of times that it's used. So don't get confused about that. That's just the system ID. Use terms only is already selected. So from here, all I need to do is click report. And it's telling me that the authority term is found in 35 records. And it's produced a report of all the places where that's used. And it says it's been used 35 times. So it lists all the records of which object type is book. I can also report on the entire file. So I want to know where all the different terms for object type have been used. And I can select entire file and click report. The object type is used in 309 records, and it will generate a report for me telling me all of the places each term is used and how many times it's used. So if we look at, let's say, bowl, that is the system ID for the authority term bowl, and it's been used once in this record here. I can also find out if any terms are not used by selecting unused terms only, and again, clicking report. And it's telling me that the authority term coin with its system ID 13 is not used at all in the system. So something else that we can do with the authority term report replace tool is replace terms. That's really useful for when you have duplicate terms. You can replace one version of the term with the other, and then you could delete the one that's not in use or mark it as not usable, or several other options. You can also replace it with nothing. So let's have a look at that. So I'm going to unselect entire file, and in the authority terms to replace field, I'm going to enter chair. I've decided that I don't want to use chair anymore. I'll select use terms only. Up here, I'll select replace, and that opens up this area. And in here, I could either leave it blank, and in which case it would find all the instances where chair had been used and replace it with nothing, but I actually want to replace it with furniture. Decided that that is going to be the term that is used when we're not going to use chair anymore. So I'm replacing it. And then with this option here, action on current term, we have a few options in here. So we have delete, so you could delete it from Vernon CMS entirely, and I'll talk about that in a moment. You can set the system flag to do not use, so the term would become not usable, and I'll talk a bit more about that in a moment as well. We have update use instead with the replacement term. So the replacement term will become a use instead term for the current term. So basically, furniture would be a use instead term for chair. And then we have flag as retrieve, do not use, and update the use instead term with the replacement term. So it would update chair to retrievable but not usable, and it would make furniture the use instead term for chair. So I'm going to select this option, and that's going to mean that chair is going to be marked as not usable. So now I can click the replace button. That term chair is found in 2 records. It tells me where it's used. So it's used in these two records here. And it's asking me if I want to go ahead and perform the replacement. Yes, I do. And I also do want to set the system flag to do not use for chair. So that's all done. So for those two records, the object type is now furniture. So you can control the use and deletion of authority terms with something called term usage control. So I'm going to change how one of my locations is used. So I'll open up object location, and I'm just going to click into the location field here, click the options button, and I'm going to click show top terms. So we've got Vernon Systems Museum here, and I don't want anyone to choose this as a location because it's too broad. I want them to actually navigate down and choose a storeroom, a rack, and so on. I don't want them to just choose Vernon Systems Museum. So I'll select it and I'll click Go To. So now what you do is in the navigator, scroll down until you see Other Files, Location, which is the file that I'm in, and then select Authority Management. And here we have term usage controls. So usable, there are no restrictions on a usable term, and it's the default setting for all terms. Not usable means that you can't search for the term and you can't enter it into a field. It's quite useful for historical locations that are no longer used, but are part of the location history for object records. So we don't want to delete those. We want to keep them as part of the location history, but we don't want people to be able to enter it into a field or find it. And then the last option here, retrievable but not usable. So this is where you can see a term, you can search for it, but you can't enter it into a field. And that's what I want to do for Vernon Systems Museum, which you can see listed here. Select retrievable but not usable. There's another option here, which is do not delete. So you can mark on an individual level with terms that they cannot be deleted. I'm just going to leave that as is. And I will save. And if we go back to the location, it's telling me that Vernon Systems Museum is a non-usable term and it has RNU in front of it. So it's not letting me put that in the field. And when I open it up, it shows as RNU, Vernon Systems Museum, and it's grey. So that indicates that it's not usable. But I can still navigate through it to choose the option in here. You can set the system to prevent deletion of any term which is in use somewhere in the system. So to do that, you go to Tools, System Maintenance, Customized Configuration, and then on the Authority tab, you would unselect this option. So if it's selected, then it allows the deletion of records which are used in the system. If it's unselected, you can't delete any records that are used in the system or any terms that are used. So if we do want to delete an authority term, that would mean that it would no longer exist anywhere in the system. It will be removed from all records and all the fields that it's currently used in, and no users will be able to use the term in the system. So we go to Tools, Authority Tool, Authority Term, Report Replace. One thing to be careful of is that if you're deleting a term that's part of a hierarchy, first you should make sure that you go to the term below it in the hierarchy and change its next higher term, because you're going to be deleting it and that term has to live somewhere. So I've decided that I don't want to use the wire sculpture term anymore. I just want sculpture to be the term that's used. So in authority file, I'll enter object type and select that. And in the authority terms to replace field, I'm going to enter wire sculpture. I will select replace in the top right, and I'm going to replace it with sculpture. And I could type it in here. I could use the options button to choose it from the list. And I could also leave that field blank, and that would mean that the term will be removed from wherever it's entered in a record, and that field would be left empty, but I actually want to replace it. So in this action on current terms, I'm going to choose delete. So once I've performed this replacement, I want that term to be deleted. So then I can click on replace. It's telling me that it's found in 2 records. And it's telling me where it's used in that cat sculpture record that I created. And I want to go ahead with that. And yes, I want to delete the current term. So that's all finished. So now if I go to object identification and search for cat sculpture, we can see before it had wire sculpture in there, now it has sculpture, and wire sculpture isn't available in the list of terms. You can also apply a candidate status to authority terms. So that means whenever a new authority term is created, it is automatically a candidate. So this is useful if you want to review all the terms that people create before making them approved. So you can set that across all of your files, or you can set it on particular files. And what you do is go to Tools, Authority Tool, Candidate Terms. In the Files field, you can leave that blank and it'll do it across the whole system. But I'm going to put object type in here. And if you select Turn Defaulting On, that means that by default, all new authority terms will be candidate terms. So click Go and then click Close. So now when I create a new object type term, it will be a candidate. You can display a C next to candidate terms to make it more obvious. And you do this by going to the Tools menu, System Maintenance, Customized Configuration. Click on the Authority tab and select Display Candidate Term Prefix. And then click OK. So now if I create a term, I'll click into Object Type and click Go To. I'm going to create a new term for object type, drawing. Click Save. Let's put that in the field with C next to it, showing that it's a candidate. And when I go into the list of authority terms, I can also see that C there. You can report on candidate terms. So going into Tools, Authority Tool, Candidate Terms. If I want to report on what are candidate terms within object type or across the whole system, and I want to restrict this to object type, it already has report terms selected. So I just click Go, and it tells me that drawing is a candidate term in object type, and that's its system ID there, 25. So let's say you have a lot of candidate terms, you've reviewed them, you're happy with them, and you want to update them all to approved. Go to the Tools menu, Authority Tool, Authority Term Report Replace. In the Authority File field, you can type AU_status, to open up authority status. And in the authority terms to replace field, I will select candidate. So it's going to look for any candidate terms across the system. Down the bottom here, we've got files or fields to search, and you can just leave this if you want to update terms across the entire system. But if you only wanted to update ones within a particular file, you can use the double arrows here to move everything across to not be searched, and then find the one that you want, which is, for me, object type. Find that and move it back to the files fields to search. So it's only going to be looking within object type for those candidate terms. So in the top right here, choose replace. And I'm going to replace this with approved. So it's looking within the authority status file for those terms, and I've chosen the approved term. So now I can click replace. The candidate term is found within one record and object type, and it's found for that drawing term. So I'm going to go ahead and perform that replacement, and it's done. So now drawing has the status of approved. So the last thing I wanted to talk about today is third-party term lists. There are several third-party term lists that you can use in your system. There's nomenclature, there's the Taonga Māori thesaurus, and the art and architecture thesaurus. Nomenclature is an American system for classifying man-made objects, primarily social history. So if I go into object identification, click on the media measurement tab, and within the classification field, you can click the options button to explore the nomenclature. There's about 16,000 terms in 10 broad categories. So if we start to look in here, we can see the range of terms that are available. And it even comes with its own use instead term. So here we can see bed throw is in grey, and what I'm going to do is if I type bed throw in here, it's telling me that I should use this other term instead. So I click OK, and that'll put that in there for me. So you can buy this nomenclature from us. We can help you with that. The Taonga Māori thesaurus is free. You just need to get permission from the Hawke's Bay Cultural Trust. So in the classification field, let's take a look at that. So within the Taonga Māori thesaurus, we have all these terms, and I can click on one, click Go To, and on the description tab, I can read a description of what that term means. So again, we can help you with that, install that thesaurus if you want it. And then the last one is the art and architecture thesaurus. So I'm just going to switch across to my web browser. This is available through the Getty Research Institute. And if I click browse, we can see all of the terms that are available in the hierarchy. And it's huge. We've incorporated some facets into our demo system. For example, material. So in the material field, you can click into there and we can see what we have available materials by composition, form, function, origin, and property. If I click into one of those, we can see all of the terms that are available. And if I click show IDs, you can see that they each have their unique system ID number starting with AAT for the art and architecture thesaurus. So again, we can help you with that. You can buy that from us. You just need to decide which facets to import, and we can do that through the tools menu. Import from AAT.